up, Susie Wiles. Shut up, Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles is the White House Chief of Staff. Unlike Stephen Miller, loyal to his employer, Susie Wiles, who is the Chief of Staff, who has Stephen Miller as her deputy, Susie Wiles decides to do an interview with Vanity Fair and trash President Trump, number 47, decides to trash our Vice President J.D. Vance, trashes Pam Bondi, the head of the Department of Justice, and so forth and so on. And Vanity Fair is a left-leaning media organization. Now, most of their publications are written. I don't think that Vanity Fair has a TV network or part of a TV network. Maybe I should have looked that up. But what you have to understand is what we're going to get into is reports on what Susie Wiles said. We're going to get J.D. Vance's response to Susie Wiles' comments in the interview with Vanity Fair. And then you're going to get all of my analysis in between all of that. And so, as you watch these clips, you have to think to yourself, why does Susie Wiles go on Vanity Fair, a left-leaning organization that is a publication for the most part and unaware if they have anything televised or part of anything televised? Why does she get on air talking shit about her own staff? Was it because she was genuinely frustrated about how the Trump administration is operating in terms of illegal aliens and retribution or accountability? They want to call it retribution, but I think it's more of accountability from where I sit. It's accountability. President Trump is holding people accountable for the misbehavior that they've shown in the past towards him. There's nothing wrong with holding people accountable. Now, the people who are being held accountable may cry racism, may cry misogynistic tendencies and sexist tendencies, but it's accountability, no matter which way you slice it. And so is Susie Wiles genuinely fed up with the retribution tour and all this other kind of stuff? I don't know. Or is Susie Wiles does she have her sights on the 2028 presidential Republican primary? On the Republican side, I don't think there ever has been a woman that was serious about running for president. Now, on the Democratic side, yeah, because they want to bamboozle you into thinking that this brown-skinned person is still going to work in your favor. I don't believe in any of them. I don't believe in any of them. But is Susie Wiles trying to get on a national stage by creating a whirlwind of conspiracy theories about her motives behind talking to Vanity Fair and talking trash about her own staff. Is she making a stance? Is she showing that she is comparing and contrasting herself with the administration that she's working for? And her comments are definitely getting national attention. So this catapults her from being behind the scenes and letting Stephen Miller talk all the time on national television. And now this is her chance to get in the spotlight nationally to foment in the American mindset that she is a formidable force on the political landscape on the Republican side. I wouldn't go as far as to say, nah, she wouldn't do that. I mean, anything's possible. I'm not living in her head. And then, or is it to change the narrative? Because you got to remember, all this stuff, all these things that are occurring on a national stage are occurring for a reason. It could be, again, individual frustration and the lack of discipline to withhold unprofessional comments when you're being interviewed by left-leaning organizations such as Vanity Fair, or you plainly want to catapult yourself on the national scene to make yourself more recognized in a bid for the 2028 Republican National Convention presidential primary, or you're doing it to change the narrative of what was going on. So before Rob Reiner, before Susie Wiles went on Vanity Fair to say that BS that she said about her own staff, which I believe are stories that have changed the narrative from the Epstein files and narco boat bombings and the Somali fraud, right? This Susie Wiles stuff and this Rob Reiner, and I'll do a separate thing on Rob Reiner, but all this stuff that's happening right now, all the stories that are taking over the headlines in news across all platforms is Rob Reiner and Susie Wiles. Did she do it to change the narrative? Is she truly a team player? Well, I got news for you, Susie Wiles. You need to keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Why would you go to left-leaning organizations and so we talking about Lucky Sport Quick. We talking about backstabbing your manager and stuff like that. Nah, you can't do that, man. I mean, at least give the dude a heads up. Give the dude, President Trump and Marco Rubio, I think, and Pete Hegseth. Stephen Miller is the assistant chief of staff, and he's been communicating very well. I really appreciate his communication style. But give these people a heads up. Hey, I'm going on Vanity Fair. They may take my thoughts and comments out of context, and I need you guys to understand or whatever. But it's the reason why she did it is what we're trying to get down to. Hey, I think I spoke in enough. Let's play you some clips. And here's the thing that I got for Susie Wiles though. Keep your mouth shut. Um, there are other ways to seek national attention besides trashing your own staff, right? If you want to be a candidate for the 2028 presidential Republican National Convention primary, then just say so. Um, I don't think that we are as women are as emboldened on the Republican side to seek that type of office, the highest office in the land, or one of them anyway. And um, the Republicans are not really too keen on having anybody outside of a white male. I mean, listen. I'm a registered Republican in the state of Virginia. I voted for Trump and all that. I'm just calling balls and strikes here. The Republican Party is hell bent on white males for presidential candidates, and from what I've read about Susie Wiles, and she's highly respected, and she's working for Trump right now. She made a bonehead move. I don't agree with it, but people do make mistakes, and so I don't think she'll make that mistake again. And she's recently been on social media, pushing back on the critics as far as, hey, Vanity Fair, took my comments out of context. And I believe that you should have gone into your decision making on whether or not to do an interview with Vanity Fair with that in mind already. And, if I'm a highly sought after talent within the United States, such as Susie Wiles, my answer would have been no, because it's a left-leaning publication, and they're known for doing it, just like the BBC, the British Broadcasting, whatever the C stands for. But she should have went into that knowing that, and her answer should have been no off the rip.
This just in, a revealing new interview with really the most powerful person in President Trump's White House beyond him, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, commenting and going there on a wide range of topics, it seems, with Vanity Fair in a new series of interviews, from the handling of the Epstein investigation to her assessment of the big names on Donald Trump's team. Let's get to CNN's Elena Treen, who is at the White House. There seems to be a lot in there, Elena. What is your big takeaway?
I mean, look, I've covered the president, and I've also covered Susie Wiles for years now, Kate, and this is one of the most candid interviews and stories that she's offered really from the entire time I've done that. This is incredibly candid, some of the things that she was admitting, because I will tell you too, Wiles is someone who often likes to operate kind of in the shadows and quietly. She doesn't like to draw attention to herself, and that's why I think some of what people are waking up and reading this morning is so stunning to hear about. But let me get into some of the main things that I found very notable from what Chris Whipple, who works with Vanity Fair, detailed from their conversations. One is that Wiles referred to President Trump as someone having a, quote, alcoholic personality. A lot about the vice president, J.D. Vance, someone who I should note, had this conversion that Whipple noted as well from never Trumper to a MAGA acolyte. Susie Wiles essentially said that change, that conversion has been, quote, sort of political. And she said the vice president has been a, quote, conspiracy theorist for a decade. She also talked about Russell Vought. He is the White House budget chief, but he's also, of course, one of the architects of that notorious Project 2025 conservative blueprint for the future Republican Party, something that Trump had previously previously, of course, disavowed. She argued that vote is, quote, a right-wing absolute zealot. And then she also went to a number of different things. One, she talked about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, someone who was one of her closest friends, I should note, in this administration. She argued that Bondi, quote, completely whiffed the handling of the Epstein files. She also talked about how the president who came in and offered a series.
Well, I do agree with that. If you check my video library on YouTube, I made some comments on an earlier presentation about Pam Bondi's deliverance of the Epstein files. This Susie Wiles story is, I think, a distraction from the Epstein files and the narco boats and the Somali fraud in Minnesota. Whether she knows it or not, she just changed the whole narrative. And now this is what CNN's talking about. We're going to go to another news station. That's what they're talking about. But why would she say all this, man? I mean, it's quite scathing, you know?
Of pardons to really roughly 1,000 people who were convicted for their crimes on January 6th. She essentially admitted that she had urged the president not to pardon those who had committed violent crimes on January 6th and on the Capitol attack. She also talked about how she disagreed with him sometimes when it came to tariffs, saying that she had urged him to delay some of the tariffs that he ultimately announced. And it goes on. There's a lot of other areas where she kind of talks about kind of disagreeing with him, but also ultimately her role is as a facilitator rather than, past White House chiefs that we've seen, notably people like John Kelly during the president's first administration, who at times tried to hold him back. She sees as her job trying to kind of shape what he does.